accounting and payroll. Thank you for voting us Yuba Sutter's best in multiple categories, including financial advisor and wealth management firm for the past 5 years. You can find more information at ShawAssociatesInc.com or 530-674-1150. Shaw & Associates is proud to support community radio.
And in with me right now, Brent Hasty, running for Yuba Water Agency South District. How you doing, Brent?
You know, Gary, I am doing fantastic. You know, you get out there and you start knocking on doors and talking to people, and you realize how much you love the people of Yuba County, and you get to say hello to them and just enjoy hanging out with them.
Okay, so I got a question for you, because I've gone and I've knocked on doors before. And when you're out knocking on doors, how many times do you knock on the door and you hear people moving inside the house and nobody answers the door?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely more than in the past, and part of that's how many Ring cameras there are.
Oh, gotcha.
So you push on the button. I've had some interesting Ring camera. There were a couple of fun ones. One was I've never had that happen, but you push the button and Alexa comes back on. Are you delivering a package? How can I help you? And I'm like, and she does not understand when you say, well, I'm running for office and I'd like to leave this brochure. I don't understand what you want. So that's been an interesting one. The other is the ability for people on on that Ring camera to, wherever they are, they're on a phone somewhere and they're, who are you? And that's been, so you're talking to the camera. The other thing that is really different is, back in the day, you'd walk up, ring the doorbell, and, if nobody's there, you're thinking about something else, whatever you're doing. And what happens is, but when you realize you're on a Ring camera, you assume there's somebody standing there, so you're going to stand there and smile for 30 seconds and make sure that you're looking like, I want to be here, please come to the door. So that's different than the technology of old.
Yeah, but, as you're going around and talking to people, what are you seeing? Are there concerns with the Yuba Water Agency? What are they wanting, and what's the major things that you're finding out? I
think that the major concerns are what the water agency is doing for flood control, what the water agency is doing to help their community. So, in the South County, we've got Linda, Olivehurst, we have Wheatland, and then the agricultural districts around that. They each have kind of different needs. Obviously, the agricultural districts are very connected with the water agency. Obviously, they get their water, so they know the district. I think in the communities themselves, it's when we're, I'm out talking to people in Wheatland and talking about how the agency has invested in the wastewater treatment engineering lines to go out to Wheatland and how that's going to help Wheatland, and they're interested in that. The agency gave the final $300,000 loan for the new pool in Wheatland, and so talking about the things there. In Olivehurst, we talk about some of the drainage issues that we've been able to help solve. And I think, I talked to the fire chiefs and the first responders, and we talk about our Bill Shaw grants, and I walked into the Wheatland Fire Authority, and they were proudly showing me the new drone they had gotten, and this is, the chief Art was, got it out and opened the case. This is what we have, and how great this is for our first responders, and how we can help our community. So I think the people that know the agency are really seeing some real benefits that they weren't seeing. We just didn't have the resources to before 2016. Yeah, because before 2016, it was part of PG&E, correct? It was always owned by the Yuba County, citizens of Yuba County, through the Yuba Water Agency. But basically, we had a lease buyback, and so you could say that PG&E leased it and paid off all the bills until 2016. So they had the first 50 years of it, and then after that, it became fully operated and owned by the water agency. Yeah, and now you've sat on the board for the Yuba Water Agency since 2014, correct? Yep. Yeah. And so what have you seen as far as changes go with the water agency and with what's happening? Yeah, no, that's the great part about the water agency. In 2014, we were really organizing to shift over to our operators and our that the agency would take full control. And the agency, there are 7 different partnerships that were PG&E kind of set up in these PG&E partnerships. And we were really the first to say, we're going to take full control. Most of them just continued to sell back to PG&E, and we went, nope, we're gonna run this as fully as ours, and hire the 24, go from 8-hour operators to 24-hour operators and run it as our own. And I think that's probably one of the biggest differences, is really from about 35 people to almost 100 people now. We used to be really driven consultants,
Yeah.
and that was just it was a great model during the time when PG&E was there and using consultants. But we've really driven a lot of that expertise home. We've got an intern program that I think now is one of the best, just bringing people in, young people who are in college. We're doing a lot within we're just doing more things than I think that we ever dreamed, in the sense of, we've got one of the largest forest management programs in the country now, in a collaborative agreement with, so we're up to 225,000 acres behind.
Oh, wow.
And we sit in a relatively enviable position. I mean, I can never say thank you enough to the people who stood before us, those county supervisors who decided in 1959 that we're going to build the agency, and the citizens of Yuba County in 1966 that passed a bond that was 2.5 times the total assessed value of Yuba County, and they built it. And so, in this year, which is the worst drought year California has ever had.
Really? It's worse than 2014?
Way worse. The flows coming out of Shasta, it's kind of been an unusual year in that most of the storms were coming from the south this year, and so Shasta is really down. And a little technical, but Shasta has about 1.6 million acre feet of water in it. They probably have 1.2 million snowpack. It's maybe down below that for sure now, but so maybe they're going to get 3 million in their reservoir, and they need a total of 2 million just to meet the flow requirements in the San Joaquin Delta for a salt load, to keep salt out of the Delta. And I don't think there's any way, they'd like to have they'd like to have about 2 million left over at the end of the year in case, another drought, so they're not going to make that. And so you're seeing zero allocations for agricultural water in the Sacramento River and the CVP side. So you're looking this year at 400,000 to 500,000 acres of rice not being grown in the Sac Valley.
Oh my goodness.
In Yuba County, every field will be planted that the farmers want to plant, and it's because of that foresight of those forefathers before us, and the ability of our amazing team at Yuba Water Agency to manage the resources that they have, and the luck of having the water happen to, this is a game where, where that atmospheric river goes up the system, and it happened to go up in our area, so it gave us a little bit more buffer than most of the state. So I think that, it's that foresight, because if we didn't have it, not only would we have been flooded more times in the last, 50, 60 years, but we certainly wouldn't have all of the rice planted in Yuba County. And that is such a huge factor, because it's not just, when you think about what that means to the community, and I see the Yuba River Endowment sign behind me, and I'm super proud that I was in the room when we got that formed.
Yeah.
But the rice makes such a difference in our economy, because of it's not just the farmer who grows the rice, but it's that rice has to be dried, and that rice has to be moved, and those farm trucks have to be moved. And I'll tell you that I was in meetings this year where I tell people all the time, it was the most sobering year I've ever been in my life in the water world, because you had very large districts and managers saying, we really need to go talk to our county supervisors and our city managers, because in the small rural communities, it's going to devastate. Because yes, maybe the farmer has got crop insurance, but that doesn't pay for, that means there's no diesel this year being sold. There's no rice. There's nobody working at the rice dryers. There's no trucks hauling it. There's no people working the fields. So it really has an impact on your economy when the farm economy can't get that water onto the fields. And so we're very blessed in Yuba County, and it's that long-term thinking of the people of Yuba County. And I always tell people, we sometimes feel like we were the small little county, never enough. But I got to say that, the people of Yuba County have so much to be proud of. And the Yuba Water Agency, as they learn more about it, the realization is they have so much to be proud of, in the sense that they built probably the best flood control. It's the largest project that's small municipal owned. So it's the fifth tallest dam in the United States, 400 megawatts of power. It's just an amazing project. And then when you tie that in with what the agency has been able to do over the last 25, 30 years since we really kind of got into helping the levee districts. You know, we're a county of 80,000 people, and we have, you know, been able to invest, you know, other people's money and our money and over $500 million into fixing levees.
Yeah.
That's just unheard of. There's no place like that anywhere else in the United States. And so it's really an amazing project to be a part of. I have, you know, and I enjoy being a part of it. And I think that, you know, what I have learned through the years, and as I was telling you earlier, I mean, I kind of started public life and water world by going on the Reclamation District 784 in 1986, right after the flood. And through almost, you know, 35 years of that, I have gained so much contacts and you know, and ability to pick up the phone and call people that I think I'm really helpful with the agency in getting us through some things. You know, and I will say that in the last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess now, you know, it was in the paper, but we signed the voluntary agreement, which was something we've been working on since 2016, and it's a big deal for the agency.
So what is that voluntary agreement exactly?
Yeah.
So if people didn't see that in the paper.
Sure. The voluntary agreement is an agreement that, let me go back real quick. So the Yuba Accord, so that's just on the Yuba River, was basically an agreement that we, the environmentalists, all the people that kind of work on the river, put together that said these are the flows that we need. And your options were you could get together and work with lots of different kinds of people, or you could just go to the state board, the State Water Resource Control Board, and they will tell you how much water you can give up.
Right.
And we have found, and the Yuba Accord is a prime example of working together with people and using science, you know, to say this is how much water we can do. These are the kind of things we can do on the river that will help the fish. It really gave us some stability for 15 or 20 years on these are the flows we're going to have. The voluntary agreement at the statewide level is every river, so the Sac, the Feather, and the Yuba in the Sac Valley signed an agreement basically to go into this same kind of a mode that will give us it's an 8-year agreement, but the reality it's probably 10 to 20, that will give all of the farmers and all of the fisheries a stability of this is what's going to happen. And I think that's, you know, and I'm super proud of the fact that when we were in these meetings, I can't tell you how many leaders around the state would say, we're building a model on what Yuba did on the Yuba Accord.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so, you know, again, I go back to the people of Yuba County have so much to be proud of what they've done in this county. You know, and now it's our turn as the agency has taken over the ownership and has been able to invest in the community. We now have a $10 million we grant a year in the community, and I think that you're seeing more investments. One of our big project, I think that we're getting closer. You know, we're getting to 100% of our engineering done probably in October, and that's what we call the ARC spillway or the secondary spillway. That's really going to make that's a huge flood safety protection issue for the citizens of Yuba County. So I think we're going to get that done, and then I think once that's done, once the voluntary agreement's in place and we've stabilized what our revenues look like, we're going to really be able to invest large sums of money into the community. So, you know, maybe we don't know. There are limits to what the agency can do,
right.
But we'll certainly be looking at, you know, can we help build some roads that would be evacuation roads? So, you know, is there a way that we can help maybe look at the Marysville bypass as a portion of road that could be an evacuation road? Can we invest in that? Can we invest, you know, same way down at the South County? Wheatland has kind of the same problem when there's a couple of months in the year when you have a hard time getting through Wheatland.
Right.
So how do you can we help that? And I think that we'll spend a lot of time over the next 4 years, you know, thinking about how far can we go? The flip side of that is there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on our flood side. District 10 needs some help. And then, you know, what are the drainage issues that we can help? And again, the sewer lines out to South County. it's a big deal from an economic standpoint to have the capability out in South County. So, when you get out to the Hard Rock Casino, they have their own small sewer system. But if you want to develop that ground around them, you really have to have capacity. And again, I think the foresight of people in Yuba County, the people of Linda and Olivehurst, oversized their sewer capacity, I mean, immensely. And then, and with Olivehurst especially, you had Plumas Lake, and it hasn't grown as fast as the people thought it would. Linda, it's kind of the same, but they put the footprint down to build. Both of them combined have sewer capacity 2 or 3 times what Yuba City has.
Yeah.
And so having that ready, now when we can, help them build the pipelines, and that means that Wheatland can be picked up and they, easily and put into that capacity, really gives us kind of a regional sewer system. And again, I think it comes down to the foresight of the people prior. I mean, there was room, and they decided to make sure they had the space to build bigger systems and look way into the future. And so, I mean, again, I go back to, it's not just the water agency. There were lots of things that happened in Yuba County that really, in that kind of an infrastructure side, that the citizens of Yuba County have a lot to be proud of. And you're now going to see that capacity start being used. And so the opportunities for potentially a research center out near Beale. And that we're at the Yuba Water Agency. We hadn't done this before, and one of the things I'm proud of, being honest, we've started doing economic development and looking about how that works. And so we're looking at potential what they call a UARC, which is an Army or a military research facility out there, which would be tied with large University Davis and other universities. So as we look about, I think the possibilities in Yuba County are just incredible. I mean, I'm super excited, and I think the agency can be a leader and driver in that, and I just want to continue. I want to continue making Yuba County the place that my kids say, Dad, this is the best place ever, and I don't want to leave. I mean, there's lots of jobs here, and there's opportunities, and we see that happening, and I think that's super exciting.
So if you're reelected, what is your goals, not just the water agency, but your goals for the water agency moving forward?
Yeah. I want to see us invest more money into our community. And I think that the agency, one of the big things the agency could do, working with the counties and the cities, is there's a community choice aggregate, it's called, and it's where you can buy your power from. You still get a PG&E bill, but you buy your power from somewhere else, and PG&E just transports it for you. We actually are wrapping up a study for a CCA, and again, community choice aggregate, and that study should, we can't do it as an agency because we don't have the right to retail power. It's not within our agency act.
Okay.
But the cities and the counties could form a CCA, and then we could help them. Absolutely, we can spend the resources to help them build it and do the things they need to get. We can run it from our expertise. Maybe, I don't know how, however we would do that, but we could help run it because of our expertise in the in the Cal ISO and how we move power about. And then we could generate power that just goes directly to, into that system, and the Yuba County citizens could benefit. So that could I think there's a real possibility over the next 4 years that could be formed. We could have lower power costs in Yuba County. Given that, that opportunity, that's a huge opportunity for more economic development, because one of the big challenges in Yuba County or in California, and especially in the PG&E area, is the cost of power. We're often told, we can go to SMUD and they have cheaper power. So if we can meet that or beat that market, and I think, the agency has the ability to produce power at a lower rate. Now we have to make a decision, that whatever that rate is. But I don't think there's any doubt that we can, if the counties and cities, and I think they will be supportive, are willing to build a CCA, that we at the agency can lower the costs for power and for the citizens of Yuba County, which I think is huge, both from economic development and for the citizens themselves. I mean, right now, it's a tough time out there.
It is.
And so, I mean, any ways that we can help lower the costs, I think we've been able to, out in Plumas Lake, we were able to renegotiate a lot of the bond factors So people's, taxes went down in some areas of Plumas Lake, which was, it's a big deal and it's a nice, amazingly nice thing. But can we do that in other ways in other places? I don't know that there's a structured tax system of how they built it in other ways. But I think lowering the power costs in Yuba County would be a tremendous benefit to everybody.
I agree. Brent, that's about the time that we've had. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Perfect.
Talking
Thanks,
about
Gary.
your candidacy, talking about the things you want to do with the water agency. So Brent Hasty for the South District of the Yuba Water Agency.
Sure.
This community interview is made possible by Shaw and Associates.
I'm Dave Shaw, President and CEO of Shaw & Associates. For over 65 years, Shaw & Associates has been your trusted local expert for wealth management, tax, accounting, and payroll. Thank you for voting us Yuba Sutter's best in multiple categories, including financial advisor and wealth management firm for the past 5 years. You can find more information at shawassociatesinc.com or 530-674-1150. Shaw & Associates is proud to support community radio.